there. Today's experiment is going to get a little bit messy, so I recommend that you put down some plastic or a towel or something like that, just in case. What we're going to learn about today are things that are unmixable, as well as emulsions. So what I have, and you can do this in your test tubes on a smaller scale, just read your manual for the measurements. I'm going to do it in a glass jar so it's easier to see. What I have is some olive oil from home, some dishwashing soap, and water. And it doesn't matter the temperature, you can try with different temperatures. And so there are some principles of these substances that we know about for sure. We know that oil will float on water. This is because water is more dense than oil. Now, I'm not really sure about the dishwashing soap and what effect it will have. All I know is that dishwashing soap is very good for taking oil off of my dishes. So, the point of this experiment is to see what exactly will happen, and maybe the order of adding these ingredients will change, and the ratio will change what will happen ultimately. But right now, I know that the amounts that I use don't really matter because the effect should be the same. This is my hypothesis. This is my guess. So because I know that oil sits on top of water, I'm trying to decide which one I want to add first. And you can try it again and again in different combinations. I think what I'll do first is add my soap, actually, because I'm really not sure, and it would be interesting if it would rise to the top. So I'm just adding to my jar about 1 centimeter or so. And then I know if I add water directly, it'll probably make bubbles, so I'm going to add my olive oil. Oh wow, it's just like spreading out in the soap. Oh, but it's definitely making a layer on top of the soap. That's pretty cool. So it seems like the soap is more dense than the oil. Okay. And I'm sure this could be pretty if you use soaps of different colors, for example. So I can definitely see my oil on top of my soap. But now that I know that soap is more dense than oil, I wonder what will happen because I also know that water is more dense than oil. So here goes nothing. I'm trying to pour it gently without mixing it too bad, but I'll have to let it settle for a moment. Okay. I definitely have the foam on the top from the soap. There's some settling. Let's see here. Give it a moment to kind of work out. It's interesting because now there are bubbles inside of the oil, which is not something you normally see. But for my best guess, it looks like the soap and the water mixed as they're supposed to under the oil, and the oil still sits on top. But the bubbles inside are quite interesting. So these are stratified, which means layers. The atmosphere is stratified, for example. Heavier air is on the bottom, lighter air is on the top. But we can also make an emulsion. An emulsion is when you mix two things that don't normally mix together. If I were to take, for example, an electric whisk and mix this, it would mix for a time and then it would separate out again. But every day we can see emulsions in the making. For example, if you bake a cake, normally if you just put those ingredients in a bowl, like the eggs and the flour and the water and the oil, they'll separate out. But you use the electric whisk to mix them together, and then you bake them before they have time to separate out again. That's an emulsion. In this case, I'm not really sure what I could do to make an emulsion, but there's a couple things I want to try. So I have here some white vinegar, and I really don't know, but I know that these substances are generally safe together. I just want to see what will happen. Now it seems that the vinegar is just mixing with the soap and the water at the bottom. And we've still got these layers of bubbles on the top. Okay, and then I also have some milk here. All right. Let that settle. it out. So what we have on the bottom is a normal mixture, which means these substances mix quite easily with the soap, the water, the vinegar, and the milk. This is not something you want to drink, but we have the stratified layer of oil on the top. Actually, if I lift it up and look at the bottom, there is a slight layer of soap that didn't get mixed in, and so it sits on the bottom because it's still pretty dense. But we have something of an emulsion in this layer because the force of us pouring the liquids down has mixed the substances together, at least to make a foam. That is not very normal. So try with different things. You can add food coloring to see what works and what mixes with it. We know, for example, food coloring mixes with water-based substances, but would food coloring mix with soap, for example? I'll see you next time.